Fighting crime in a future time. Hey, what's happening, gamers? I'm K-Wing, and today we're talking about the Batman Beyond suit. Well, this game's version of Terry's suit anyway. Has anyone noticed that both wearers of this costume name begin with a T? Terry and Tim. It's a pretty snazzy suit though, isn't it? I'm just not a fan of that ninja mask. I mean, what's up with that? Also, it features none of Terry's abilities like turning invisible, shooting batarangs out of his arm, bat grapples, and of course, rockets out of his boots. Though the cape does open up when he glides, so that's pretty cool. Still, I think the traditional costume just looks better, but that's just me. Anyway, it's time to learn stuff while punching crime in the face. Okay, so if you don't know who Batman Beyond is, here is a little history lesson. This character is from a spin-off show from Batman the Animated Series called Batman Beyond, and it happened in the late 90s. It was created by the three-man powerhouse behind the hit animated program, Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, and Alan Burnett. In the future, Batman has grown old, as, well, most people do. To make up for his shortcomings and aging body, he's created this power suit to enhance his strength and stamina and to still be Batman. However, during a rescue operation gone terrible, Bruce has a heart attack and fearing for his life, he picks up a gun and aims it at a bad guy. Afterwards, he hangs up the cape and cowl for good, stating never again because he actually used the instrument of his war on crime. So that kind of was the final coffin for the Batman. And 20 years pass by. Bruce is now in his early 70s and Neo-Gotham has no Batman. And crime has kind of changed a little bit. Gotham is ready for a new Batman. Enter Terry Mcginnis, an athletic high school kid with a girlfriend and who used to run with the bad crowd, due to his parents' divorce, which they make that pretty obvious. Though the boy has a great respect for justice and legends. Now, you can't have a Batman story without a little bit of tragedy, so this is how Terry becomes the Batman. At school, Terry got into a fight with a jock, and gets suspended. Unknown to Terry, his dad, Warren Mcginnis, has learned a nasty corporate secret that will cost him his life because of Wayne Powers. Now, Mr. Powers is a guy who bought Wayne Industries, and he merged it with his own company called Powers. Anyway, at home, Terry fights with his dad because he wants to go out with his girlfriend to some club. Terry bails from his groundedness, and Mr. Powers' bodyguard then arrives at Warren's house. Yeah, things are not gonna be good. At the dance, Terry's hanging out with his girl, and yes, she has a name. It's Dana, if you're wondering. And she's like, "What are you doing here, Mcginnis?" And he's like, "Hey, I gave myself time off for good behavior." So you gotta love his witty sense of humor. So while out having a good time, they run into some jokers, which are basically a Neo-Gotham street gang that idolize the clown and are carrying on his twisted legacy, except as a gang. So one of the gang members, for whatever reason, grabs Dana, and the rule of the story is never mess with another fella's gal. It's just not funny, and Terry is kind of a hothead, and he goes and beats up the jokers because they messed with Dana. Anyway, he gets in trouble, he grabs a motorcycle, they have a cool chase scene, and somehow end up at Wayne Manor, which is really nowhere near Neo-Gotham. So it was on the outskirts of the city, into the old city. And then he ends up fighting the jokers in front of Wayne's doorstep, only to be saved by Bruce Wayne. I never thought I would utter those words, like, ever. Oh, and before I forget, there's actually a famous thing that happens during this scene. One of the jokers says, "Let's put a smile on that face," and then he pulls out a switchblade. And this comes, mind you, 10 years before The Dark Knight hit theaters. So a Joker gang member is responsible for that famous line. Isn't that freaky? So anyway, back to the story. Terry and Bruce beat down the wannabe Jokers, and then Wayne, upsets his heart, and Terry has to help him inside so he can get his medicine. And while he's stumbling around looking for stuff and trying to find a phone to get Dana to come pick him up, he discovers the Batcave by accident through the grandfather clock. And he's like, "Dude, you're Batman!" And Bruce was like, "I was." Then he tells him to get out of my house, and Terry goes home to find out that his dad has been killed by the Jokers. So Terry, like Spider-Man, blames himself for his dad's death. Similar to, the guilty conscience and responsibility that irks Peter Parker because of what happened to Uncle Ben, it's the same for Terry and Warren. Terry thinks, if I was just here, I could have fought them off. Me and Dad, could have fought an entire gang. And the mother's like, no, you couldn't have done anything. But he really believes that he could have. Later after the funeral, Terry stumbles on his dad's work and finds Powers' dirty laundry, or in this case, a CD that talks about this nasty nerve gas that he's going to sell overseas so he can make mucho dinero. He then goes to see Bruce Wayne so he can tell him, this guy's doing some pretty bad things with your company, you need to be Batman and stop him. In the Batcave, they have a fight, and Wayne orders the disc to be given to Commissioner Barbara Gordon, who, took up the reins of justice from her dad and actually became a cop and did things, the right way, according to Bruce anyway. Although Bruce and the police never really got along anyway, just Gordon. But I'm rambling. So Terry, all you need to know is he doesn't trust the police and storms off. He's then attacked by Powers' right-hand guy and loses the disc, so his evidence is completely gone now, meaning even if he told the police, there's no way they're going to believe him, and he has nothing to back that up. So long story short, he goes back to Wayne Manor, steals the Batsuit, and goes after his father's killer. So Terry gets the evidence that he needs and runs into some bad guys, but Bruce is not happy that the suit was taken without permission and basically hits the kill switch, which almost kills Terry Mcginnis because he's fighting a bunch of bad guys, and well, that wasn't cool of Bruce to hit the kill switch. So Wayne then has a change of heart because of what happened to his parents, which Terry knows about, so you can see kind of an emotional connection there. And then the new Batman and Robin are born, or in this case, younger Robin is the Batman figure and Bruce is the Oracle guy, the person behind the scenes who's helping the younger hero out. So it's an interesting dynamic. Together they stop Powers from sending nerve gas to evil dictators all over the world and get Wayne Industries back over the course of the series. The two then go on many adventures together, and Terry even meets the Joker Reborn, which I really don't want to spoil all that because it's a great movie. You need to check it out. It's called Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. And it involves a previous Robin and even mentions Nightwing, but that's about it. You guys go watch it for yourself. It's an amazing movie, and it was also one of the first WB animated films to get a PG-13 rating. So Terry is very inexperienced as Batman, but he makes up for a lot of his shortcomings with sheer athletic talent and, just the way he handles life. Though he sucks at stealth skills, I'll say that right now. And in the beginning, he relies too much on the technology, something that Wayne teaches him over the course of the series. But Terry is very stubborn to learn things, thinking because he's a teenager, he knows, better than this guy who's in his 70s or 80s. So in the show, another attribute that they show about Terry learning things is he gets angry a lot. So Mr. Angry Face tends to get into trouble, similar to Marty McFly from Back to the Future. He's hot-headed and his temper flares so much, and he has to learn the hard way because of his temper. But as Alfred would say, why do we fall, Terry? So we can learn to pick ourselves up again, and that's just what Terry does. Early in his career, Terry deals with his own Joker of sorts, Derek Powers, which is the leader of Wayne Powers, corporation or whatever. He becomes infected with this chemical nerve gas stuff that his dad, Warren Mcginnis, was trying to, get out into the public before his death. And this turns Powers into a radioactive skeleton guy who hates Batman, Bruce Wayne, and Terry Mcginnis. But he never quite figures out that Bruce Wayne was the original Batman, so Terry would be the next Batman. In fact, it wouldn't really take a detective to figure out, Terry Mcginnis is kind of the same height as the new Batman. I mean, he's not like this bulky dude, Even his Batman voice is kind of like a teenager trying to sound older. But anyway, these characters never notice the obvious. So he never figures out who the new Batman is, and that's just funny. Now, Terry really doesn't have that many amazing detective skills. Now, you could argue that when he accidentally found the disc and investigated, his dad's last will and testament about Powers being bad and then going to Bruce Wayne, that showed some of the ability for him to be a detective. But you have to remember, in the episode, when he gets the disc, he really doesn't understand what his dad was working on. So he goes to see Bruce Wayne, and then Bruce Wayne shows him fully, okay, this is what this is about. Terry wouldn't have figured it out without Wayne. But, Terry still has street smarts, so I'll give him that. But he has a very big stubborn streak and doesn't really pick up everything that his mentor teaches him. Still, this Batman, he does get the job done, and on top of that, he started much earlier than Bruce Wayne ever did, because remember in Batman Year 1, Bruce is a lot older, like he's in his late 20s. This is a 17-year-old kid who becomes Batman, so Mcginnis, if he sticks with it in the long run, he could be the longest running Batman. Still, you can't help seeing all these different comparisons between Terry and Bruce's life during the course of the show. Terry, like Bruce, he meets a jewel thief, they flirt a lot, and he's attracted to a lot of bad girls. But unlike Bruce, this is very important, Terry actually has a social life and a love life that he's not willing to give up. Then again, it could just be high school, but later on, you see some very interesting things. Now, keep in mind, while he's still in high school, Terry also joins the Justice League. And one thing I really liked about Terry McGinnis is how he took the Grayson approach to fighting crime and laughing in the face of danger. While it didn't really work for Bruce, it fits Terry's personality perfectly. Now, did you know, in the comic books, Terry McGinnis actually has a falling out with Bruce Wayne and actually works with a retired Nightwing instead of having Bruce be his handler. Another Grayson similarity is the fact that Terry also got justice for his father, similar to Dick Grayson. By bringing down the guys responsible for their parents' deaths, they're able to get a little bit of solace and move on, something Bruce has never really been able to do in many different DC multiverses. Terry, on the other hand, was able to move past his grief and pain and stays Batman to help people. He gives Batman a purpose, which I think is actually pretty cool. Anyway, as for the show itself, it ended when he was still in high school, I believe, and you learn much later on in Bruce Timm's other show, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, that Batman #2 has been active for over 25 years. The only reason he quits, the mantle of the Bat is he learns that Cadmus has done something to make Batman, Bruce Wayne, his real father. And hold on, I'm going to explain all this because it gets kind of confusing. So Warren Mcginnis was not Terry's real dad. So how did this happen? Well, during the Justice League episode called Epilogue, we realized that Amanda Waller has done some pretty crazy things in order to keep Batman going into the next century. And she also realizes the importance of Batman and why the world needs a Batman more than any other hero. She becomes obsessed with the idea of carrying on Batman's legacy, even without Bruce's, blessing. She steals some of his DNA because, when he's fighting bad guys all over the city, he leaves traces of his DNA that anybody could make clones of him, like anywhere. And she creates the Batman Beyond project. So basically what she does is they create a complete Bruce Wayne DNA, and then they rewrite several young married guys' actual genetic personality when they're just going in to get a flu shot from the doctors. And people tell me I'm paranoid these days for not getting yearly flu shots. Well, when you're cyborg alien zombies, you'll know why. That's all I'm going to say on that. Anyway, Waller then hires the Phantasm to kill Terry's parents when he's 8 years old because Batman has to have tragedy in order to become that figure, in order to mold his life. That has to happen. But the assassin, Andrea Beaumont, couldn't pull the trigger, and she even talks to Waller and says, "We cannot disgrace everything that Batman stands for by killing someone." And Waller's like, "You know what? You're right." Now, Terry, when he's confronting Waller, he mentions how fate had a funny way of making things happen anyway, with his dad being killed by crime, and that the mantle of Batman is a curse. Though the old lady basically tells Terry, "You're not a clone. You are Batman's son, and you will forge your own path, Mcginnis, and you've kept Gotham and the world safe for a very long time. So you've done good, kiddo." Also, he doesn't have Bruce's life either, which is a big difference between him and the original Batman. Remember, Batman severed all ties with everyone close to him to just focus on the mission. We all love Frank Miller's Year One and some of his other books, but Batman has an unending war on crime that will only lead to him eventually being killed. And that's a very lonely and unfulfilling life, folks. Eventually, some punk or one of his foes will get lucky and Batman will die, And then who's going to carry on his will? Who's going to be the Batman? In this universe, Batman's ticked off everybody close to him. Nobody's going to be the new Batman at all. Not Tim Drake, not Nightwing, not nobody. What's interesting, though, is the Bronze Age Neil Adams Batman was a hero without the grief fueling him on. And Terry is actually that kind of Batman. And people, and myself, like that. Terry comes to respect his real dad over time and no longer sees Batman as a curse, but as a legacy. Something that he wants to pass on to his family. A new tradition that's going to be born for the Mcginnis line and the Waynes or whatever. So basically, he plans on asking Dana to marry him at the end of the episode, and he'll keep protecting Gotham, flies off to see Superman or whatever. As for the comics, while I did read Batman Beyond 2.0, it's an Elseworld storyline and should be viewed as such. It's also kind of made for kids who are grown up who watch the animated series because it has a very adult storyline and features a very interesting love triangle between Babs, Dick, and Bruce. Yes, Babs and Bruce got together, and that's as much as I'm getting into it. All you need to know is Terry works for Grayson in this story and likes Dick better than Bruce. He views the former Nightwing as a really cool guy who got his life in order and didn't end up, Mr. locked in his house with dogs type thing. Bruce became a dog guy, okay? And grumbles more because, he's old. Sadly, the New 52 kind of annoyed a lot of Mcginnis fans of late with Future's End. And this will be spoilers if you're reading this or you don't even know about this. Terry takes the role of Trunks going back in time to prevent the androids from destroying the world, essentially. Bruce is in the Batcave with Terry fighting off an army of Justice League cyborg things controlled by a being called Brother Eye, which is this AI evil computer thing. Think Hardak from the animated series, except even crazier, and he has control of the entire planet. So Hardak has won, and Batman has to go back in time to prevent this, more or less. He creates this time machine, and he's planning himself to go back in time, but he ends up having his arm chopped off, and then Terry has to go in his stead. However, because the time machine is not, based on Terry's measurements and things like that, and it's not Bruce Wayne, instead of arriving in time to stop Brother Eye from going online, he arrives 5 years into Earth 52's future. So, while he does his best to save the world, he can't really do it. It's very difficult. And it lasts I think it was 30 issues or something. It was a really long thing when it's just a monument to Terry's failure, more or less, and Earth 52. So, Terry does do his best to save the world, but everything is in vain. He enlists the help of the former Red Robin, Tim Drake. And though Tim wants nothing to do with costume heroes or any Batman whatsoever, he has a really big role in this book, more so than Mcginnis. Now, Tim has moved on with his life, and he's happy running a bar in the city, and actually has a new girlfriend and a great job, and he doesn't want to be a hero anymore. Plus, he's trying to bury his inner demons and the loss of his Titan comrades, because all the Titans in this storyline are all killed. And Red Robin was the only survivor, so, Now, I wouldn't really have a problem with that because the New 52 Titan books have been crap, but just the fact that the Titans are dead, as a Titans fan, that kind of bothers me. Sadly, Mcginnis dies. There's no way to, not break it to you easily. He gets killed. He's killed in action, defending Tim and Batman from a future Two-Face cyborg, who, get this, is Batman and the Joker fused together as a Terminator, sent back to stop John Connor. So yeah, Terry's force field gets destroyed during the fight with Jokerbot, and Joker shoots him a lot. Though Terry, even though mortally wounded, is able to kill the Bat Bruce Wayne Joker thing. He then gives Tim his suit and tells him that I entrust to you the future, Drake. Don't let me down, and then he dies. Batman and Mr. Terrific then manage to get the time machine working again and send Tim Drake back into Terry's future. But something goes awry, and the Neo 52 looks something like out of Planet of the Apes, where half the world has been destroyed, and Brother Eye has actually succeeded, even though they stopped him in the past. So it's like a parallel world is created or something. Another multiverse thing. But you can actually read more about this as part of the new DCU, which technically still is the new 52, but they're trying to sell comics, so they're saying, hey, it's not quite the new 52, even though it is. So you can read all about Tim's exploits as Batman Beyond and his Alfred AI suit thing. I don't think I'm going to continue reading it. It's just not my cup of tea. I like Terry as, Batman Beyond, and I'm actually, some of the storylines with Gordon as Batman, or Robot Batman, it's not bad. But I really think that Terry Mcginnis will be back eventually, because no comic book death is forever. Also, interesting note, in the new DCU, Wayne Industries has been bought out after the death of Bruce Wayne as Powers International. So you can see a little bit of the, Wayne Powers from the Batman Beyond TV show starting to irk its ugly head in the DC comic books. So Terry will be back, mark my words. It will happen. He's beloved. After all, kids, comic book deaths are like an extended vacation. The person who's away always comes back. Case in point, Bruce Wayne is alive and well in the upcoming Batman issues. In fact, he's only been dead for 2 issues, if you really think about it. Like, in terms of, buying comic books, it hasn't been that long since his brutal fight with the Joker where he supposedly died. Nope, he's fine. No scars, no scratches, all he has is a beard. But it's totally Bruce Wayne, and even Jim Gordon knows it because he goes to him, he's like, dude, I'm having problems with your tech and I'm Batman now, so will you work with me to help me go off the radar so they can't watch me doing everything? These Wayne Power guys are really kind of shady, and Batman can't operate like that. And Bruce gets really upset. He's like, I am not doing that anymore. That is not my life. You deal with it. So we're probably going to see Jim Gordon as Batman for a little bit longer, but it's very interesting to see Batman alive and well again after only a couple issues. Comic books, am I right? And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're done. I hope you guys enjoyed learning something about Batman Beyond and that you could actually understand it a little better. But anyway, don't forget to share this video with your friends so they too can be informed and learn more about the Batman. And if you have a character you want to hear about next time, by all means, please let me know in the comments section below. Well, until we meet again, God bless and happy gaming. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with more punching crime in the face. Bye-bye.